The meeting room on Apex 7 Station was the largest space ever built by any species in the galaxy. The walls stretched up so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Representatives from 47 different alien civilizations sat in their assigned places. Each seat was designed for different body types. Some aliens needed water tanks, others needed heat lamps or cold chambers. The room hummed with the sound of translation devices converting thousands of languages into one shared understanding. Ambassador Chen walked to the center platform. She was small compared to most beings in the room. Her simple blue suit looked plain next to the elaborate robes and armor worn by other species. But she stood straight and calm. Behind her, a hologram showed a green and blue planet, Earth. The council speaker raised one of his forearms. The room fell silent. The speaker was a Vorian, tall and covered in gray scales. His species had been part of the council for 3,000 years. Ambassador Chen of Earth, the speaker said, you have requested this emergency session. The council will hear your words. Chen took a breath. She knew what was coming. The humans had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. They were the newest members, the youngest, and now they were in terrible danger. Thank you, Speaker, Chen said. Her voice carried through the chamber. 6 days ago, the Crithian Empire issued an ultimatum to humanity. They demand we surrender our colony world of New Prometheus. They claim the system belongs to them by ancient right. We have 48 hours to evacuate or face military action. Whispers filled the room. The Crithians were known throughout the galaxy. They were warriors. Their empire controlled 12 star systems. They had never lost a war. Many smaller species had simply given them what they wanted rather than fight. A massive shape rose from one of the lower seats. War Master Zekthor of the Crithian Empire stood 3 meters tall. His red armor gleamed under the lights. 4 arms, each ending in clawed hands, gestured as he spoke. The humans speak of ultimatums, Zekthor said. His voice was like grinding stones. But they ignore the facts. Our ancestors marked that system 5,000 years ago. These humans arrived yesterday in galactic terms. They are children playing with technology they barely understand. Zekthor tapped a control on his wrist. New holograms appeared above the platform. They showed human ships. To anyone in the council, they looked primitive. The hulls were thick metal. The engines burned chemical fuel. The weapons were simple kinetic accelerators, bullets and missiles. Look at their fleet, Zekthor continued. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no quantum drives. They are at least 2 centuries behind council standard technology. This is not a matter for debate. This is a matter of natural order. The strong take what they need. The weak surrender or die. Chen felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her face calm. She had expected this. She had warned Earth Command this would happen. The Council has laws, Chen said firmly. Laws that protect member species from aggressive action. We request Council intervention. The speaker looked uncomfortable. He glanced at the other Council members. Many would not meet his eyes. The Council must deliberate, the speaker said slowly. However, we also must consider reality. Ambassador Chen, our military analysts have reviewed the situation. The Crithian fleet numbers 500 warships. Your defense force at New Prometheus has 47 ships. Most of them are converted civilian vessels. A hologram appeared. It showed calculations, predictions, battle simulations run by the galaxy's best military computers. Based on technological analysis, the speaker continued, if combat occurs, human resistance will last approximately 4 to 6 hours before total defeat. The loss of life would be significant. Perhaps it would be wiser to negotiate a withdrawal. Around the chamber, aliens nodded. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked bored. A few were already placing bets on their personal communication devices. How long would the humans last? 3 hours, 5? Some bet the humans would surrender without fighting at all. Chen looked around the room. She saw pity in some eyes, contempt in others. None of them understood. None of them knew what humans really were. With respect, Speaker, Chen said quietly, your analysts are wrong. Zekthor laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. Other Crithians in the chamber joined him. Even some council members smiled. Your species has courage, I will grant that, Zekthor said. But courage without strength is just foolishness. You cannot win this fight, human. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are weak. Your technology is primitive. Accept reality. Chen turned to face the Crithian War Master directly. She did not smile. She did not show anger. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. You look at our ships and see primitive technology, Chen said. You look at our weapons and see weakness, but you do not understand what you are really seeing. You have never met a species like humanity before. Every species in this council evolved as apex predators on their worlds, Chen continued. You reached the stars and then you learned how to fight wars. But humans are different. We learned how to fight wars first. We perfected war, and then we reached the stars. The chamber grew quiet. Some aliens shifted in their seats. We have been fighting for 10,000 years, Chen said. We fought with sticks and stones, with bronze and iron, with guns and bombs and nuclear fire. We fought on land, at sea, in the air, and in space. We fought each other in millions of wars. We learned every possible way to kill and survive. Your analysts see our technology and think we are weak, but they do not understand. We built our military to be flexible, to adapt, to use whatever works. We do not care about honor in battle. We care about winning. Zekthor waved dismissively. But some of the other council members were listening now. Really listening. You have 48 hours to evacuate New Prometheus, Zekthor said. After that, my fleet will arrive. This council will not stop us. Your primitive ships will not stop us. Nothing will stop us. Chen was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke one more time. Her voice was soft but clear. War Master Zekthor, she said, you do not understand what you are about to witness. We asked for peace. We requested council protection. We tried diplomacy. You chose war. You will regret that choice. I hope the council is watching when your fleet arrives at New Prometheus, Chen added. I hope you all see what happens when you underestimate humanity. With that, Chen turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the council dissolved into arguments and discussions. Zekthor stood confident and proud. The speaker looked worried. And throughout the galaxy, people waited. 48 hours later, the Crithian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Prometheus system. 500 warships, the largest fleet assembled in 20 years. Their sensors detected the human defense force immediately. 47 ships, just as the intelligence had reported. Small, slow, primitive. Admiral Jessica Torres sat in the command chair of the human flagship Resolution. She was 52 years old. She had gray hair and tired eyes. She had served in Earth's Navy for 30 years. Before that, her ancestors had fought in wars going back centuries. Her great-great-grandfather had flown fighter jets. Her great-great-great-grandmother had commanded submarines. War was in her blood. All ships report ready, Admiral, her tactical officer said. Torres nodded. She looked at the tactical display. 500 red dots representing Crithian ships, 47 blue dots for humanity. The odds did not bother her. She had read the histories. She knew about Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans held off hundreds of thousands. She knew about Agincourt, where English longbows destroyed French knights. She knew about Midway, where aircraft carriers changed naval warfare forever. She knew that throughout history, humans had won impossible battles by being smarter, faster, and more ruthless than their enemies. The communication channel crackled. Zekthor's voice came through. Human vessels, this is War Master Zekthor of the Crithian Empire. You have one final chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. You have 60 seconds to respond. Torres smiled. It was not a happy smile. Open channel, she said. Her tactical officer pressed a button. Negative, War Master, Torres said calmly. New Prometheus is human territory. You are trespassing. Leave now or face the consequences. There was a pause. Then Zekthor laughed. So be it, human. Die with honor if you can. Torres leaned forward in her chair. Her eyes were cold. All ships, she said. Weapons free. The first shots fired were not what Zekthor expected. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Talon, watching the tactical display. His fleet was arranged in perfect formation. Lines of warships stretching across space like a steel wall. Each ship had energy shields active. Each ship had plasma weapons charged and ready. This was how civilized species fought wars. The human ships began firing immediately. No positioning, no maneuvering, no grand strategy, just crude kinetic weapons launching projectiles into space. They are panicking, one of Zekthor's officers said, firing wildly without proper targeting. Zekthor watched the streams of metal rounds flying through space. The human weapons were magnetic accelerators. They threw chunks of metal at extremely high speeds. Primitive but not entirely useless. However, Crithian shields could handle such attacks easily. The first wave of projectiles hit the Crithian formation. Shields flared with light as they deflected the impacts. Some rounds bounced off harmlessly. Others were vaporized by shield energy. Not a single Crithian ship took damage. As expected, Zekthor said, their weapons cannot penetrate our defenses. All ships prepare to advance. We will destroy them quickly and move on to the planet. But the human ships kept firing, round after round, thousands of projectiles. They were not aiming at the Crithian ships anymore. They were firing in all directions, creating clouds of metal that spread through the space around the battlefield. What are they doing? The tactical officer asked. They are wasting ammunition. Zekthor frowned. Something felt wrong. The humans had fired tens of thousands of rounds in less than 90 seconds. The projectiles were spreading in complex patterns. They were not random. They were calculated. All ships begin advance, Zekthor ordered. Maintain formation. The Crithian fleet began to move forward. Their engines pushed them toward the human position. Standard battle doctrine. Close the distance. Overwhelm the enemy with superior firepower. Then the first collision happened. A destroyer on the left flank suddenly shuddered. Its shields flared as something hit it. Then another impact. And another. The ship was flying through a cloud of human projectiles. Each round was traveling at thousands of meters per second. When the destroyer tried to move, it collided with more rounds. Report, Zekthor demanded. Sir, the projectiles are in overlapping orbital patterns, the tactical officer said, his voice rising with alarm. They created a minefield. A three-dimensional minefield. Any movement causes collisions. Zekthor stared at the display. The human projectiles were not just flying randomly. They were in carefully calculated orbits. Millions of pieces of metal, all moving in patterns that covered the entire battlefield. Any ship trying to maneuver would run into them. Shields can handle it, Zekthor said. Continue the advance, but shields were not designed for sustained bombardment. They were meant to deflect occasional hits. As the Crithian ships moved through the projectile field, they were hit constantly, hundreds of impacts per second. The shields began to flicker and fail. The destroyer that had taken the first hit suddenly broke apart. Its shields had failed completely. Projectiles tore through its hull like bullets through paper. Explosions rippled across its surface. Within seconds, it was debris. Multiple ships reporting shield failures. The communications officer shouted. We have lost 7 ships. 12 more are heavily damaged. Zekthor could not believe what he was seeing. His fleet was being destroyed by simple metal projectiles, not by energy weapons or missiles or anything sophisticated, just chunks of metal moving very fast in very precise patterns. All ships halt advance, he commanded. Hold position. But holding position did not help. The projectiles were in orbit around the battlefield. They kept coming. The Crithian ships were trapped. They could not advance without taking more damage. They could not retreat without moving through the minefield. They were stuck. On the Resolution, Admiral Torres watched her tactical display with satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. Phase 2, she said calmly. The human ships changed their firing patterns. Now they were launching different projectiles. These ones had small rocket motors attached. They could adjust their paths slightly. The humans were filling in the gaps in their minefield, making it denser, making it impossible to find safe paths through. How long until the Crithians realize they need to retreat? Torres's tactical officer asked. They already know, Torres said, but their doctrine does not allow for retreat. They are warriors. They value honor. They will try to fight their way through. She was right. Zekthor was already ordering his ships to break through the minefield by force. Maximum power to shields, he roared. All ships charge plasma weapons. We will burn through this primitive trap. The Crithian ships began firing their plasma weapons at the projectile clouds. Superheated energy beams lit up space. They vaporized thousands of projectiles, but there were millions more. And every shot the Crithians fired used energy that could have been used for shields or engines. The human ships began to move, not forward into the fight, sideways. They were repositioning themselves around the edges of the battlefield, like wolves circling a wounded animal. Target their command ships, Torres ordered. Fire when ready. The human ships had been holding back their largest weapons. Now they unleashed them. Massive kinetic kill vehicles. Each one was the size of a small car, moving at a significant fraction of light speed. They were not trying to get through the minefield. They were firing over it, targeting the Crythian command vessels that were too big to dodge. Zekthor saw the incoming projectiles on his display. 4 of them aimed directly at the Crimson Talon. Evasive maneuvers, he shouted, but his ship was massive. It could not turn quickly. The first projectile slammed into the forward shields. The shields held but barely. The second projectile hit the same spot. The shields collapsed. The third and fourth projectiles struck bare hull. The impacts were catastrophic. The kinetic energy was so great that the metal of the hull simply vaporized. Explosions ripped through 3 decks. The bridge shook violently. Lights flickered. Alarms screamed. "Damage report," Zekthor demanded, pulling himself back into his command chair. Forward sections destroyed. "We have lost main power to weapons. Shield generators offline. Engine efficiency down to 40%. Around the battlefield, other Crythian command ships were taking similar hits. The humans had identified the largest vessels and focused fire on them. Take out the commanders and the fleet falls into chaos. It was an ancient human tactic. Cut off the head and the body dies. "Sir, we need to retreat," one of Zekthor's officers said. "We cannot win this fight." "The humans have trapped us," Zekthor wanted to argue, wanted to order his ships to fight on. But he was a warrior, not a fool. He could see the truth on the tactical display. His fleet was being destroyed, in minutes, not hours, by an enemy they had thought was primitive and weak. "All ships," he said slowly, the words bitter in his mouth. "Retreat. Jump to faster than light as soon as you clear the projectile field." The Crythian ships began to turn, trying to escape, but the minefield made it difficult. Some ships managed to find paths through, others were not so lucky. More ships broke apart as they tried to flee, their damaged shields failing under the constant impacts. Torres watched them go. She could have pressed the attack, could have destroyed more of them, but she did not need to. The point had been made. "Cease fire," she ordered. "Let them run. Let them tell everyone what happened here." Her tactical officer looked at the final count on his screen. "Total time of engagement, 11 minutes and 43 seconds, he reported. "Enemy losses, 411 ships destroyed or disabled. 89 ships escaped. Our losses, 12 ships destroyed. 8 ships damaged but repairable. 11 minutes, not hours, minutes." Back on Apex 7 station, the council chamber was in chaos. They had watched the entire battle through long-range sensors. Every council member had seen what happened. They had seen a fleet of 500 advanced warships broken in less than 12 minutes, by a force 1/10 their size using primitive technology. The betting pools had closed. Everyone who had bet on human defeat in hours had lost. Everyone who had bet the humans would surrender had lost. The few who had bet on human victory could barely believe they had won. The council speaker stood slowly. His scales had paled with shock. "This session is adjourned," he said quietly. "We need to discuss what we have just witnessed." In the back of the chamber, Ambassador Chen sat in her chair. She had watched the battle with no expression on her face. When it was over, she stood and walked toward the exit. As she passed the Vorian delegation, one of them spoke. "How?" the Vorian asked. "How did you know this would work?" Chen paused and looked at him. "Because we have fought wars like this before," she said simply. "Not in space, but on Earth. We have 10,000 years of experience finding ways to beat superior technology with tactics and strategy. The Crythians assumed technology would win. We assumed intelligence would win. We were right." She continued walking. Behind her, the council members sat in stunned silence. They were beginning to understand what humanity really was, and they were beginning to be afraid. The emergency council session began 6 hours after the battle. Every member was present. No one wanted to miss this discussion. The galaxy had just witnessed something that should have been impossible. A fleet 10 times larger with superior technology had been destroyed in minutes by what everyone had called a primitive species. The council speaker called for order. The chamber fell silent. "We must understand what happened," the speaker said. "Our best military analysts have reviewed the battle. I will now ask them to present their findings." A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the battle from beginning to end, but now it was slowed down, enhanced, every detail visible. A military analyst, a tall insectoid being called a Thixian, began to speak. His species had been military strategists for the Council for over 1,000 years. The humans did not fight the way we predicted, the Thixian said. We assumed they would try to fight using standard tactics. Instead, they fought using principles we do not understand. The hologram showed the first moments of battle. Human ships firing in all directions. We thought they were panicking, the analyst continued, but they were not. Every shot was calculated. They were not trying to destroy the Crithian ships immediately. They were changing the battlefield itself. They turned empty space into a weapon. The hologram showed how the projectiles spread through space in complex orbital patterns. It showed how any movement by the Crithian fleet caused collisions. It showed how the humans had trapped their enemy without firing a single shot at them directly. This is not how civilized species fight, a council member said. She was a delphine, an aquatic species known for their peaceful nature. We use shields. We use formations. We engage in direct combat. This is trickery. It is not trickery, Ambassador Chen said, rising from her seat. It is called strategy. It is called using every advantage you have. It is called winning. The chamber turned to look at her. You call our tactics uncivilized, Chen continued. But what is civilized about war? You fight with rules. You fight with honor. You fight to show your strength. We fight to survive. We fight to win. There is a difference. The human is correct, the Thixian analyst said. We have analyzed their military history. What we found is terrifying. Humans have been at war for their entire recorded history. They have fought tens of thousands of conflicts. They have developed warfare into a science. Another hologram appeared. It showed images from Earth. Ancient battles with swords and spears. Medieval sieges with catapults and arrows. Modern wars with tanks and aircraft. Nuclear explosions. Orbital strikes. They have never stopped fighting, the analyst said. Even when they reached their own moon, they were in the middle of a global conflict. Even when they developed fusion power, they were fighting wars. War is not something humans do occasionally. It is something they have always done. The council members watched the images with growing horror. They saw humans fighting in every possible environment, in deserts and jungles, on mountains and oceans, in cities and open fields. They saw weapons of incredible variety, simple and complex, brutal and precise. Most species in this council, the analyst continued, fought perhaps a dozen major wars before joining the galactic community. The average is 15 conflicts over 1,000 years. Humans have fought more than 15,000 documented wars in the last 10,000 years alone. Silence filled the chamber. 15,000 wars. It was incomprehensible. How did you survive? A council member asked quietly. How did you not destroy yourselves? We almost did, Chen admitted. Many times. We came very close. But we learned. We adapted. We developed rules and treaties. We created international law. We built organizations to prevent total war. But we never forgot how to fight. We never became soft. Your technology is inferior, another council member said. Yet you won. Explain this, Chen smiled slightly. Our technology is not inferior. It is different. You build your military equipment to be impressive, to show your power, to intimidate enemies. We build our equipment to be effective, to accomplish missions, to destroy enemies. She gestured to the hologram. You saw our ships. They look primitive because they are built for function, not appearance. Our engines can run at dangerous power levels because we accept that in war, some ships will be sacrificed. Our weapons are kinetic because they are reliable, simple, and effective. We do not need fancy plasma or energy weapons. Metal moving very fast works just fine. But the most important thing, Chen added, is not our technology. It is our doctrine. Our way of thinking about war. You fight to win with honor. We fight to win at any cost. You fight according to rules. We make new rules. You think of war as a test of strength. We think of war as a problem to solve. The Thixian analyst brought up more data. We have also discovered something disturbing about human military training. Every human military officer studies what they call military history. They learn from thousands of years of past battles. They study strategies used by ancient commanders. They analyze victories and defeats from conflicts that happened thousands of years ago. Your Admiral Torres, the analyst said, looking at Chen. We researched her background. She has studied over 500 historical battles. She has read books written by military thinkers who died thousands of years before she was born. She knows tactics from every era of human warfare. Is this normal? Yes, Chen said simply. Every human military commander studies history. We believe that the past teaches us how to win in the future. We learn from our ancestors. We do not repeat their mistakes. But those battles were fought with primitive weapons, a council member protested. Swords and horses and gunpowder. How does that help in space combat? Because the principles do not change, Chen explained. The weapons change. The environment changes. But the principles of war remain the same. Surprise, deception, concentration of force, economy of effort. These ideas are timeless. Admiral Torres used tactics that are thousands of years old. She just applied them to a new battlefield. The analyst brought up another display. It showed something shocking. Human children playing games. We have also discovered that humans teach warfare to their children, the analyst said. Not directly, but through games and stories. They play games that simulate combat. They read stories about wars and battles. They learn strategy from entertainment. By the time a human joins their military, they already have years of informal training. This caused another wave of shock through the chamber. Teaching children about war? It seemed barbaric. It is not barbaric, Chen said, reading the room. It is survival. On Earth, warfare was a constant threat. Parents taught their children to understand conflict because they might need that knowledge someday. It became part of our culture, part of who we are. So every human is a potential warrior? The speaker asked. No, Chen said. Most humans are not warriors. Most humans want peace, but every human understands conflict. Every human knows that sometimes you have to fight. And when we fight with everything we have learned over 10,000 years of history. The Thixian analyst continued his presentation. There is one more thing the council must understand. Human military doctrine includes something they call acceptable casualties. In the battle at New Prometheus, the humans lost 12 ships, over 3,000 human lives. Yet Admiral Torres reported this as a victory. She accepted those losses as necessary. Most council species will retreat if they lose more than 5% of their forces, the analyst said. The Crithians will fight until they lose 10%. Humans will continue fighting even after losing 30% or more. They do not surrender easily. They do not break easily. They are willing to pay a terrible price to win. The council members were silent. The implications were clear. Humanity was not just dangerous because of their tactics or their weapons. They were dangerous because they were willing to sacrifice more than anyone else. They were willing to pay any price for victory. There is something else, Chen said quietly. Something you need to understand. At New Prometheus, Admiral Torres was restrained. She was ordered to win the battle but minimize Crithian casualties when possible. She was told to send a message, not commit genocide. If she had been ordered to destroy the entire Crithian fleet with no mercy, she could have done it. Every single ship, none would have escaped. The chamber was absolutely silent. We let 89 ships escape, Chen continued. We let War Master Zekthor survive. We did this deliberately, so he could tell everyone what happened, so the galaxy would know not to attack humanity. We showed mercy. Do not mistake mercy for weakness. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many council members as she could. We do not want to be at war with anyone, Chen said. We came to the stars looking for friends, looking for peace, looking for a better future. But if someone attacks us, if someone threatens our worlds, if someone tries to take what is ours by force, then they will learn what 10,000 years of warfare has taught us. They will learn that humans are very, very good at fighting, and they will learn that we do not lose. The speaker stood slowly. His expression was troubled. The council must deliberate on this matter, he said. We will adjourn for now. As the council members filed out, many of them looked at Ambassador Chen with new eyes. Fear, respect, caution. 3 weeks after the battle, War Master Zekthor sat in a dark room on the Crithian homeworld. He was no longer the confident warrior who had stood before the council. His armor was dented and scarred. One of his forearms was in a medical brace. But the physical wounds were nothing compared to the damage to his pride. He had been ordered to return home and explain his defeat. The Crithian Emperor wanted answers. The entire empire wanted answers. How had their mighty fleet been destroyed by primitive humans? A holographic display floated in front of him. It showed footage from the battle. Human footage, captured by their sensors and later shared with the galaxy. The Crithians had not shared their own recordings. They were too ashamed. Zekthor watched the footage for the 100th time. He saw his fleet approach. He saw the first human shots. He had thought they were panicking. He had been so wrong. He watched his ships get trapped in the minefield of projectiles. He watched them die one by one, unable to maneuver, unable to fight back effectively. A door opened behind him. Zekthor turned to see an unexpected visitor. A human. A military officer in a simple uniform. The man was unarmed and alone. "War Master Zekthor," the human said, speaking through a translation device. "My name is Colonel Marcus Webb. I am a military historian with the human fleet. Ambassador Chen asked me to speak with you." Zekthor growled. "Why would I speak with you? You came here to mock me? To celebrate your victory over our forces?" "No," Webb said calmly. "I came to help you understand what happened. Admiral Torres thought you deserved an explanation. You fought bravely. You followed your training and your doctrine. You did everything right according to how you were taught. You still lost. That is not your failure. That is a failure of understanding." Zekthor was silent for a moment. Then he gestured to a seat. Webb sat down. "Explain," Zekthor said. Webb pulled up his own holographic display. It showed images from human history. Ancient battles. "This battle happened 3,000 years ago on Earth," Webb said, pointing to an image. It was called Cannae. A human general named Hannibal faced a force twice the size of his own. The enemy had better equipment and more soldiers. But Hannibal won because he understood something his enemy did not. Victory is not about having more strength. It is about using the strength you have more effectively. Webb showed another image. This battle was called Agincourt. Again, a smaller force defeated a larger one. The smaller force used their knowledge of terrain and weather. They turned the battlefield into their advantage. The larger force could not use their numbers effectively because the ground was muddy. Their heavy armor became a weakness instead of a strength. "What is your point, human?" Zekthor asked. "My point is that Admiral Torres did not invent anything new," Webb said. "She used tactics that are thousands of years old. She turned the battlefield into a trap. She used your strength against you. Your shields were strong, so she made you waste energy defending against constant impacts. Your formation was disciplined, so she made movement impossible. Your fleet was large, so she made sure your numbers did not matter." Webb pulled up footage from the recent battle. Every shot the humans fired was calculated. "We were not trying to destroy your ships with the first wave. We were trying to control space. We turned empty vacuum into dangerous terrain. This is called area denial. We have been using this tactic for thousands of years." Zekthor watched the display. He was beginning to understand. "Your species fights with honor," Webb continued. "You challenge enemies directly. You test your strength against theirs. You believe the strongest should win. This is noble, but it is also predictable. Humans do not fight that way. We fight to win. We use ambushes. We use deception. We use any advantage we can find. Honor is something we think about after the battle is over, not during it." "You call that cowardice," Zekthor said. "We call it survival," Webb replied. "On Earth, species that fought fairly went extinct. Species that fought smart survived. Humans are not the strongest species that evolved on our planet. We are not the fastest or the toughest, but we are the smartest. We learn to use tools. We learn to cooperate. We learn to think ahead and plan. These traits made us dominant on Earth. These same traits make us dangerous in space." Webb showed more images from human history. Guerrilla warfare, submarine tactics, stealth aircraft, cyber warfare. Every image showed humans finding ways to fight enemies that were stronger or better equipped. "We have fought wars against every possible kind of enemy," Webb explained. "We fought in deserts where water was scarce. We fought in jungles where visibility was zero. We fought in frozen wastelands and burning cities. We learned to adapt to any situation. When we came to space, we just adapted again." "But your technology is primitive," Zekthor protested. "How do you compete with species that have energy shields and plasma weapons?" "Because we understand something you do not," Webb said. "Better technology does not guarantee victory. Better strategy guarantees victory. Your ships have amazing shields, but shields use energy. If we force you to keep your shields active constantly, you eventually run out of power. Your plasma weapons are powerful, but they take time to recharge and they are visible. Our kinetic weapons can fire continuously and they are harder to detect until they hit." Webb leaned forward. "Here's the real secret, War Master. We built our military assuming we would fight enemies with better technology. We always assume the enemy is stronger. So we train to fight smarter. We train to find weaknesses. We train to turn their advantages into disadvantages. Zekthor was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "What happens now? Your species has proven it can defeat advanced fleets. Will you conquer the galaxy?" "No," Webb said firmly. "We do not want to conquer anyone. We came to space looking for friends and allies. We want to trade. We want to learn. We want to be part of the galactic community, but we will defend ourselves. Anyone who attacks us will face what you faced. Anyone who threatens our worlds will learn what 10,000 years of war has taught us." Webb stood up. "Ambassador Chen wanted me to give you this." He placed a small data device on the table. "This contains detailed analysis of the battle. We are sharing it with you and with the Council. We want everyone to understand what happened. We want everyone to know that attacking humanity is a mistake." "Why?" Zekthor asked. "Why share your tactics? Why help us understand how you won?" "Because," Webb said, "we would rather have informed friends than ignorant enemies. We want the galaxy to understand humanity. We want you to know that we are not weak, but we are also not hostile. We will defend ourselves, but we prefer peace. We want everyone to make informed decisions about whether to be our friends or our enemies." Webb walked to the door, then paused. "One more thing, War Master. Admiral Torres asked me to tell you something. She said you fought well. You followed your training. You did your duty. In human military culture, that is worthy of respect. She considers you an honorable opponent. If your empire ever wants peace with humanity, we will listen." After Webb left, Zekthor sat alone with the data device. He activated it and began to read. The analysis was detailed and brutally honest. It showed every mistake the Crithian fleet had made, every assumption that had been wrong, every moment when human strategy had outmaneuvered Crithian tactics, but it also showed something else. The analysis included recommendations, suggestions for how other species could defend against similar human tactics, ways to counter human strategies, weaknesses in human equipment and doctrine. The humans were teaching their enemies how to fight them. It seemed insane, but Zekthor understood the message. The humans were confident. They believed that even if enemies knew their tactics, they could still win. They believed their ability to adapt and innovate was faster than anyone else's ability to copy them. That confidence was terrifying. Across the galaxy, other species were receiving similar data packages. The Council had been given complete access to human military tactics and history. Military academies on 100 worlds began studying human warfare. Officers and strategists analyzed the Battle of New Prometheus from every angle. What they learned shocked them. Human warfare was not random or chaotic. It was a science. A discipline refined over thousands of years and millions of conflicts. Every human military officer studied something called the principles of war. Unity of command, objective, offense, mass, economy of force, maneuver, surprise, security, simplicity. These principles had been developed over millennia of trial and error. They had been tested in every kind of conflict imaginable. They worked on land, at sea, in the air, and now in space. They were universal truths about combat that humans had learned through terrible cost. Alien military academies began inviting human instructors to teach, not because they wanted to copy human tactics exactly, but because they needed to understand human thinking. They needed to know how humans approached problems, how they planned operations, how they adapted when plans failed. One of the most disturbing things the aliens learned was something humans called contingency planning. Humans did not just make one plan for battle. They made multiple plans. Plans for if things went well, plans for if things went badly, plans for if the enemy did unexpected things, plans for retreat, plans for different weather or equipment failures or communication breakdowns. 5 years had passed since the Battle of New Prometheus. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Humanity had become one of the most influential species in the Council, despite being one of the newest members. Not through military conquest or political manipulation, but through something unexpected. They had become teachers. The Human Military Academy on Luna had opened its doors to students from 40 different species. Young officers from across the galaxy came to learn human military doctrine. They studied human history. They learned about the principles of war that humans had developed over 10,000 years. They trained alongside human soldiers and learned how humans thought about conflict. Colonel Marcus Webb had become one of the most popular instructors. His classes on military history were always full. Today he stood in front of a mixed class of students. Crithians sat next to Vorians. Delphines studied alongside Thixians. Species that had once been enemies now learned together. Today we will discuss something important, Webb began. We will discuss why humans fight the way we do. Not the tactics or weapons, but the philosophy, the thinking behind everything. He brought up a hologram showing Earth from space. Most of you evolved on worlds where your species was the apex predator, Webb said. You were the strongest, the fastest, the most dangerous. You reached the top of your food chain and then looked to the stars. Your approach to warfare reflects this. You fight with strength and honor because you are used to being the strongest. Humans evolved differently, Webb continued. We were not apex predators. We were prey. We were hunted by larger, stronger animals. We were not the fastest runners or the best climbers. We did not have claws or fangs or venom. We had something else. We had brains. A Crithian student raised one of his arms. But humans are apex predators now. You conquered your world. How? By thinking, Webb said. By cooperating. By making tools and weapons. By planning ahead. Humans did not become dominant through physical strength. We became dominant through intelligence and persistence. We learned to hunt animals much larger and stronger than us by working together and using strategy. Webb showed images of ancient humans hunting. Humans used persistence hunting. We would chase an animal for hours or days until it collapsed from exhaustion. We were not faster, but we had more endurance. We could sweat to cool our bodies and keep running when other animals had to stop. This taught us patience. It taught us that sometimes you win not by being stronger, but by lasting longer. A Delphine student spoke up. But that was before technology. Before civilization. Why does it still matter? Because it shaped how we think, Webb explained. Humans learned very early that we could not rely on being the strongest. We had to be smarter. We had to adapt. We had to innovate. These traits became part of our nature. When we started fighting each other, we brought the same approach. Every war taught us new lessons. Every defeat made us think harder about how to win next time. Webb showed a timeline of human warfare. Thousands of years. Thousands of conflicts. We fought with every possible weapon, Webb said. Stones and spears. Swords and shields. Bows and crossbows. Guns and cannons. Tanks and aircraft. Nuclear weapons. We invented new ways to kill and new ways to defend. We studied every battle to understand what worked and what failed. We wrote it all down. We taught it to the next generation. We never stopped learning. This is why the Battle of New Prometheus was not surprising to humans, Webb continued. Admiral Torres used tactics that were ancient. She created a kill zone and trapped the enemy inside. She targeted command and control. She used the enemy's advantages against them. These are principles humans have known for thousands of years. She just applied them to space combat. The Crithian student spoke again. We studied that battle extensively. We understand now that we underestimated humanity. But there is something I do not understand. Why did you let us survive? Why did Admiral Torres allow War Master Zekthor to escape with part of his fleet? She could have destroyed everyone. Webb nodded. Good question. The answer is that humans fight for objectives, not for glory. Our objective was to defend New Prometheus and make it clear that attacking humanity was a mistake. We achieved that objective. Destroying the entire Crithian fleet would have made you our permanent enemies. It would have required us to fight a long war of revenge and counter-revenge. By letting survivors escape, we sent a message instead. We said we can defeat you, but we would rather have peace. This is another principle of human warfare, Webb said. We try to think beyond the immediate battle. We think about what happens after we win or lose. We think about the political consequences, the economic costs, the long-term relationships. War is not just about fighting. It is about achieving goals that matter. A Thixian student asked, "What is humanity's goal now? You have proven you can defeat advanced species. Will you seek to dominate the Council?" "No," Webb said firmly.
Humanity's goal is the same as it has always been since we reached the stars.
We want to be part of the galactic community. We want to trade. We want to learn. We want to make friends and allies. We want to help solve problems. But we will defend ourselves if attacked. And we will help defend others if they are threatened by aggression. Webb paused and looked at his students. You are all here to learn human military tactics. But the most important lesson is not about tactics. It is about why we fight. Humans fight when necessary, but we prefer peace. We have seen too much war. We have lost too many people to conflict. We know the cost of violence. So when we fight to win quickly and decisively, so the war can end and peace can return. On Apex 7 Station, the Council was having its own discussions about humanity. 5 years of peace had given them time to understand what the Battle of New Prometheus really meant. It had not just been a military victory. It had been a demonstration, a warning, a statement that humanity was not to be trifled with, but it had also been an invitation. Humanity had shared its knowledge. It had opened its military academy. It had offered to help other species understand warfare better. This was not the behavior of a species planning conquest. It was the behavior of a species trying to create stability. The council speaker called the session to order. Today's topic was important. Should humanity be given a permanent seat on the Council Security Committee? This was a position of great power and responsibility. Only the oldest and most trusted species held such positions. The vote will now begin, the speaker announced. Ambassador Chen stood in the observation area watching. She had argued for this position. She had presented humanity's case. Now it was up to the council to decide. The votes came in one by one. Green lights for yes, red lights for no. Chen watched the display. Green, green, green. A few red lights appeared, but they were outnumbered. When the final vote was counted, the result was clear. 43 votes in favor. 4 votes against. The motion passes, the speaker announced. Humanity is granted a permanent seat on the Council Security Committee. Chen allowed herself a small smile. This was a victory not won with weapons, but with trust earned over time. Humanity had proven it could fight. Now it was proving it could also lead. Later that day, Chen met with Admiral Torres via holographic communication. Torres was still at New Prometheus, overseeing the defense of the system. It had become an important human base. We got the Security Committee seat, Chen said. Torres nodded. Good. That will help keep the peace. If humans are involved in security decisions, we can prevent conflicts before they start. Do you think there will be other challenges? Chen asked. Other species who want to test us? Maybe, Torres said. There are always aggressive species. Always someone who thinks they can win where others failed. But the word is spreading. Everyone knows what happened at New Prometheus. Everyone knows that attacking humanity is expensive and dangerous. Most rational actors will avoid it. And the irrational ones? Chen asked. Torres smiled grimly. We will handle them the same way we handled the Crithians. Quickly, decisively, with overwhelming tactical superiority. We will make it clear that aggression against humanity or our allies will not be tolerated. Chen nodded. Let us hope it does not come to that. I would rather build friendships than fight wars. As would I, Torres agreed. But hope is not a strategy. We will continue to train, continue to prepare, continue to ensure that if someone attacks us, they will regret it. Peace through strength. That is the human way. Back on Luna at the military academy, Colonel Webb finished his lecture. The students filed out, discussing what they had learned. The Crithian student approached Webb before leaving. Colonel Webb, the young Crithian said, I want to thank you. Learning human military doctrine has changed how I think about warfare. I understand now that strength alone is not enough. Strategy and intelligence matter more. Webb smiled. You have learned the most important lesson. Take that knowledge back to your people. Help them understand. Help create a galaxy where wars are rare because everyone understands that conflict is costly and peace is valuable. The Crithian saluted in the human manner. Webb returned the salute. It was a small moment, but it symbolized something larger. A former enemy becoming a friend. A warrior learning wisdom. A galaxy learning to respect humanity, not just for its ability to fight.